And we're live. We should be live at least. Okay, Johnny, Andrew, how are you guys doing?
Great.
Stoked, stoked.
Pretty stoked. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching out there, this is the decentralized underground headquarters. And guess what? You can see our faces now. Um, we wanted to switch to a live streaming because I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. Like, there are a ton of X spaces out there. Like it's there's so many to choose from. But live streams, that's kind of new and novel. And then we've had so much fun doing live streams for the AO Hackathon. I thought would be a perfect opportunity to test it out. So we have our guest here. Guest of the week is Andrew from PDS. Andrew, how you doing, man?
Good, good. I appreciate you having me on. And yeah, I think the video format's tight because I don't see this a lot, but it's creative, you know?
Yeah, man. Gets us put on actual clothes instead of working in our pajamas for once in a while. And of course we got Johnny Ringo,
Hey,
Chief. What you've got like five different roles. You've got Discord role. You're like what don't you like chief of staff, something like that? Like what?
yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
my official role, but
yeah.
all that means is that I just gather stats on everything. So
You
like
are, you are.
everybody here, everybody there, I grab stats and bring it to the table and go, here we go, here's what we did today.
I will
That's
say
breaking it
it's
down.
it's the first thing I read when I'm like that's my like morning coffee when I'm like where am I? I'm drinking that's always the first thing I click. It's very helpful. Um, so Andrew, why don't we start by telling us about you, who you are, what you're with PDS, you're a community strategist. Did I write that down right?
That's
What
what's
is
up.
that?
Yep.
What's that entail? Like, tell me about yourself.
Yeah, man. Thanks for asking. So like I've been with PDS since 2021 and my background is in doing hip hop music and touring and the music industry. And so like during COVID, I learned more about crypto and blockchain, and I thought the Arweave use case was really cool, like learning about the Hong Kong daily being preserved and just the stuff that Arweave was doing, I thought was tight. So I saw the job for R Drive originally. That's where I applied, and they brought me on. Phil is a big music fan. Everyone knows he's really into metal. He's a great drummer. He's like knows a lot about hip hop, and so like we just clicked. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got here. It was just because of COVID and because of Arweave having making some noise back then, and like I'm still here. And I'm very grateful. It's been a cool journey.
It's super good. Now, did Phil know about your music career before the hire, or was it just like a welcome bonus after you joined?
Well, that's an interesting question. He knew this dude, MC Chris, who's a rapper I work with a lot. And I think by association, he'd heard of me. But it's not like he had any of my albums. You know what I mean?
Let's break this down actually. So I want to get into PDS, R Drive, REO, all of that soon. But I feel like people maybe they're not familiar. Like, what are we talking about? The creative music career. So is it accurate to call it lit hop? Is that the right term?
Yeah, that's kind of how I've branded it. And I appreciate you using that term. Basically, that means like rap about literature. So like I got my start, I studied abroad in Oxford and I was doing Shakespeare raps for fun. And I got signed when I was like 20 and just that became kind of my thing, like pre YouTube, pre social media, doing this kind of like ironic, nerdy rap. And then the term nerdcore became associated with this genre. And that kind of is like where I leaned into with SEO and collaborated with a lot of these weird, talented rappers. And it was like an offshoot of underground hip hop. But what was crazy was that for 20 years, it was the sustainable touring business where like just through underground, through peer to peer, file sharing, LimeWire and all that, kids would find us. And then MySpace happened. So it was like,
LimeWire.
yeah, and that's what's tight about Arweave, like the fact that it's decentralized in a similar way as the culture is. You know what I mean? Underground hip hop. So that's the background. And then lit hop was how I branded my subgenre of that.
Where, where did this inspiration come from? Like like I read Shakespeare in high school as well, and I'm not gonna lie, the first thought was not, dude, this would be a sick rap. But maybe now that I think about it, it kind of is. Like it's in the sonnets and whatnot, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Like when I talk at schools, I talk about you connect the beat with the feet, right? So like a foot is like an iamb or a spondy. So like iambic pentameter or trochaic octameter, these different cadences really fit well over a hip hop beat. And I was drawn to how the witches in Macbeth have this chant when they're trying to warn Macbeth. They're like, double, double, toil and trouble, fire, burn, and cauldron bubble. So I put a house beat on that when I was like 16 for a project, for a class project. And my teacher was cool and he let me submit it as my assignment for Macbeth. And I was like, okay, there's something here that I got a good grade on that when I was a kid. So yeah, man.
You know, this is a total tangent aside, but I feel like some of the people who are like the happiest in their lives are people who had like that one person believe in them. You know, maybe it's your dad, maybe it's your teacher, but someone who, just like what you said, where it's like they saw you doing something kind of out there and were like, hell yeah, brother, like just double down on this.
Well, that's beautiful, man. And I think that is the essence of mentorship and community. And I think that's where Web3 is at its best. Like we all have met our Jedi leader in this world who's like, oh, I see you're doing something tight. And I think with Phil, like he was that for me in this context, because he was like, oh, I see you can build community. I see you can quickly make content. I see you kind of subversive and a little anarchic. Let's see what we could do with PDS. So like, yeah, man, I feel grateful for those people. And I try to be that person in other people's lives too. I'm glad you said that. That's cool.
I want to keep going on Lit Hop, but like we keep talking about Phil, and if you're watching this, you're like, who's Phil? Phil, founder of PDS, which is Permanent Data Solutions. Did I get that right?
Nailed it. Yep.
Holler. Okay, talk to me about not your quote unquote day job because you're passionate, but like what does PDS do? And then what do you do specifically at PDS? Like, give me a couple of examples. What does a community strategist want to do?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. I mean, PDS's mission statement is to get permanent storage into the hands of everyone, right? And like, whereas Forward, y'all are really good at the tech, having the tech work, making everything like behind the scenes happen and growing the community that way. Usually, right? And so like our goal is to try to make it accessible. So like with our drive, it's like the Dropbox for Arweave, the Dropbox for the permaweb, making it so that with RFS and the interface, it's intuitive. RAO is being able to seed the data so people can be rewarded for serving the data and making it definitely decentralized and accessible through the different gateways. And then stuff like ARNS, right? The Arweave name system is really a cool feature, and stuff like Turbo, so you can use a credit card or pay with crypto to upload. So basically, we're kind of like, what's a good metaphor? If Arweave is the octopus, we're like the tentacles, maybe. I don't know.
I like that. Yeah, no, we need we can go with a Hydra sort of branding, you know, like the Arweave tentacles are absorbing Web 2.
That's what's up. Yeah, and trying to, like, if you cut off one head of a Hydra, that's a great example. It grows back. So like, that's the beauty of decentralization. You shut down someone sharing a classified PDF. Well, if you could legally share it, you could share it through other gateways. So
maybe you mentioned this. I was so busy looking at my show notes, but like, how did you find Arweave in the first place? It was during COVID. Was that right?
Yeah. My crypto journey was kind of interesting. I was producing artists remotely. I had a student who was writing and raps and songs about crypto, and he like put me onto Cardano and stuff that was like third gen projects. And I learned about Arweave, and I was like, oh, this is cool. There's like a utility to this. So it was through my friend Sean, who's an artist. He goes by Cowboy Coder, who was kind of like my Jedi with that. And and then I saw the job posting for this for the R Drive community role. So I'd heard about it, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what this is, and that's what's up. Yeah, it was just fortuitous, man.
What, like, community building, I find, can be a challenge in Web3. Like, it's cool. There's lots of cool things to do, but you're dealing with like a very online, decentralized culture. You got people from all over the world, so you got language barriers, you got time zone differences, you got cultural stuff. Like, it's a lot. Like, have you found any sort of like buckets or like ways to kind of like guide you through that process?
Yeah, like I've thought about that a lot. I was back when we were doing our ambassador program before we went to mainnet. I was working with a lot of people all over the world, and like we had people in Turkey, we had people across the U.S., people in Africa, people in India, and the thing is, you have to like really have a human interaction, which is why this program is cool, because like we see each other, we know that we're not just avatars, we know that it's not the dead internet theory in action. You know what I'm saying? Like the idea that it's the Skynet isn't running everything and it's not all a scam. You have to be like, yeah, that's what I feel like we're trying to fight. Like, I care about you. I care about you. Like, it's like when you're a musician, you always want to remember something you can about each super fan. So like when you see them, you're like, so how's your dog? Like, how's whatever? How was your birthday? Like making sure we know things about each other. Like Johnny Ringo, like I've known him for years, and he was on the Rcast, and like it's really fun catching up with him, and like he's done a lot of cool projects. And I feel like Arweave is small enough that we know each other, but it's still big enough that the community is able to grow and we're able to engage with each other. So yeah, Drew, I feel like the answer is to try to fight like the eventual entropy of late stage capitalism where it's all just scams. Because anytime you mention crypto, most people who aren't like in the scene feel like you're about to try to scam them on something. Man. I mean, no disrespect, but that's what we're up against. But I think we're doing a good job. You feel me?
We're up against it. Go ahead, Johnny.
I was saying Arweave has such a good established use case, but then you see, I love that the late stage capitalism things. I saw a meme years ago, and I use it with my wife all the time, where you'll see something and it'll be a utility token, but you're like, you sit there and you look at it, you're like, yeah, that's a utility token, but does anybody really need that? Like, who cares about tokenizing the color red? You know, and just they'll come out with these weird utilities, and it's like, all right, late stage capitalism, you need to have a lie down. Like,
man. Actually, I'm curious about how your thinking has evolved, because if I'm looking right, all the way back in 2003, I don't like saying all the way back because, you know, I kind of grew up that, but all the way back in 2003, you were talking about
20 years ago.
The I generation. I know, all the way back in the 2000s.
Don't say it like that.
No, don't get me started, Johnny. You were thinking about this for like the last 20 years. Think back to back in 2003, what you were thinking and what has happened now. Do you think you kind of foresaw this in terms of like how, you know, digital is the way to go? We're living our lives entirely in digital. And like, if something surprised you, what has surprised you since you first started thinking about this way back then?
Yeah, that's a very cool question. I appreciate you shouting out that OG reference. Like, I generation was my attempt to try to write about how our generation, like the millennials, the older millennials, even the younger millennials, how we were trying to make sense of a post 9/11 world, right? And I feel like that song was inspired specifically by Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit. I was like, what would be a generational response? And I feel like Smells Like Teen Spirit reflected the Gen X, the quandary of like, how do we find meaning when we can't trust institutions? Like the Challenger had blown up, the recession, like people were starting to think like in terms of like, maybe the America we grew up in isn't the same as our parents. And so like, I feel like millennials, our journey was trying to find meaning in everything. And I think we do that through community and through collaboration and making sense of a digital landscape where like we're all connected, we all are decentralized, but that makes us stronger. And that means that like we can kind of come together instead of being like, whatever, never mind, here we are now, entertain us, instead of being like this passive, you know, generation where irony is everything and we shouldn't care. Even though that energy gets flipped into memes and stuff, I think the fact that we are internet natives, and the young kids especially, we can find meaning, and it's not just hopeless, and we're not just like atoms floating in space. And I think that's what I see in the Arweave community, and like also the crypto communities I like outside of Arweave, because there is potential to make the world better when you take away the power from centralized sources, when information isn't censored. Like, music industry was so centralized for so long thank goodness it's not. There's so much weird, beautiful stuff. And I feel like Arweave is such an awesome permutation of that evolution of culture that it's all the same stuff. If you have faith that there's going to be a better tomorrow. And I think if you don't, this stuff is just like hard to believe in. Do you feel me?
I know,
That's where I'm
I
at.
feel you. I'm actually like, why are you talking? I was like, I agree with you 100%. And I'm trying to put myself in the position of a really young person right now, like a 15-year-old. Like, I wonder, do they feel the same way? Do they like? I'm kind of curious. Like, I hate to talk about them like they're aliens, like these young people walking around on the sidewalks here. But like, do you think it's gotten any better for the younger generations?
You know, like, so I have two kids, and one's a kindergartner, one's a baby, and I try to think that like there's more opportunities for them in terms of like what they can do with technology, but the class stratification is getting worse. Like, there's all these things that are like dark that I think that like I sometimes I think we lived at a golden time of pre like mass commercialized internet and social media and the attention economy. That is like, that's what we're doing now, right? We're having this conversation because we want people to be like, oh, the Arweave community is tight. PDS is doing cool stuff. It's actually a real thing. And like, there's so much corporate control to try to siphon that away. And so I just hope that, you know, the young generation finds meaning and like is able to use these tools to their advantage. Here's a good example of where I feel like that's happening. And it might be a surprising example, but I've performed at and hosted this festival that this group Insane Clown Posse runs. It's called the Gathering of the Juggalos. And these kids like from the Midwest, they're like scrappy underground kids who make this like grimy, dope music, like young kids, teenagers. They get to perform on stage there. They get to like sell their stuff. And it's a real community where people are able to use these tools and create this, you know, underground network where people are like inspiring each other and changing their lives. That wouldn't have been possible 20 years ago. You'd have to have been signed by a label or pushed in a certain way. And I think that like there are pockets where the potential and the opportunity of the early internet is still alive. I feel like Arweave is one of them. I feel like some cool underground music scenes are some of them. I feel like certain academic institutions that are trying to be open-minded, not biased. You know, there are pockets of it, but also, Drew, I do think that it's harder for young people. But I'd love to hear you talk to like a teenager who's like, or yeah, someone like Tate is interesting because he's not a teenager, but he comes at it from Tate of Community Labs, right? He comes at it from a fresh perspective and he's doing cool stuff. So yeah.
Try not to wear Tate down with my cynicism, my old man cynicism. Talk to me about like the kids you're talking about. So you go to schools, you're doing the Gathering of the Juggalos, which first of all, that was news to me. That is hardcore, man. I've only seen pictures, but that was a hardcore scene.
You
Actually,
hosted this year.
you hosted this year.
Yeah, it's tight.
What do they like when you perform for them? What's their reaction? You're doing lid hops, so it's sort of like it's very cerebral. Like what are some of their first questions? What is the energy you get from them after you're done performing and you're kind of interacting with them?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. Because there's if I'm in a classroom, the kids have to sit through it, right? Like I did a thing for my son's school, and so it was like they had to sit through it, and like they're like, okay, that was not as bad as like having to like watch a lecture.
Yeah,
But you try to get them to interact, like depending on their age, like do dance moves or have them help you with a freestyle, give you some topics. I think with older kids and like with hip hop, if you're like I've opened for Snoop Dogg and Nas and like some bigger rappers, the reaction can be either like, this is cool, or this dude is a culture thief and this is like really embarrassing and get him off stage and he's like destroying the culture. So like, I try to approach hip hop with respect and love. And like, it's like when you're talking about Arweave or Drive, you have to know all the technical fundamentals. Otherwise your cred is gone. You're like, oh, he's a cop. He's a fed. He's wearing a wire. So like, I try to be aware of what new stuff is happening. Sometimes I'll rap over like a beat, like a newer beat or something, and try to, but not make it feel like the "Hello, fellow kids" meme, the Steve Buscemi skateboard.
I know that one.
But when I have my band, like when I have my drummer or like my bass player, if it leans into the rock all indie energy, people kind of give you a pass because hip hop is so hybridized now. If you're funny and the choruses are memorable, weird is an asset, I feel like, in 2025. So, and if they hate it, they hate it because then they'll tell their friends how whack it was, and then their friends will want to see and they might like it. So like, it's better to be divisive than like middle of the road.
It's the Weird Al effect.
Yeah, he's one of my heroes. So
I honestly feel like that tagline is something for us to live by. Not weird is an asset. It like actually professionally too. Like we were talking about, how do you unify within the permaweb, within the Web3 community, or very disparate groups. But that is definitely one thing that is universal, is that weird is an asset these days. You know what I mean? Like no matter where you are, if you're doing something that's really out there, I think that people really glom onto that.
I think the Dum Dum meme, the whole thing with AO launch and Dum Dum was like huge win. I think Jaja's, you all are super brilliant, but like that was cool because it was like the Matrix. It was like, what the hell is this green weird elephant? And like, I think it was cool because like Sam co-signed on this brave, strange thing, and it gave it a brand. And I think with crypto, there's potential to be weird for weird's sake. But if your brand is aligned in a smart way, it's like dope, because everyone wants to do like, it's so whack. Every startup wants to do like the Apple design with the font and look in a certain corporate way. And none of us got into this because we want to work for Google, So yeah, I always double down on that. I mean, maybe some of us did, but I'm just saying like I feel like our wins with PDS have been when we're a little off center, when we're a little strange. Like we did a shirt that was the hard drives protected by these warrior elephants, and it was like very metal. And at ETH Denver, people were like, oh, I want that shirt. That's tight. And I was like, okay, well, people like the kind of offbeat thing as long as it ties in and doesn't feel like too random. You feel me? Or like, look, check this out. This is a marker we did. The REO permanent marker, because it's digital permanence.
That's actually, that type of thing is really
my
good.
Little REO guy right here.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
See
the
the
REO
elephant
in the background.
next to Dum Dum. That's like, so in other words, Drew, like going back to your earlier question, a lot of the community building stuff I try to do is bring like my background with like how you merchandise something, how you brand something in a surprising way that feels authentic and strange, but also familiar. And I think that's where I have the most fun. And I feel like that's where with Forward and everyone, when we all come together and lock on that, it's popping. And people are like, oh, the Arweave ecosystem is tight. Like, I'm going to keep my eye on that, despite whether or not wherever the market is. Like, you want long-term people to care enough so that they don't fall off if your token dips. Not that ever happens, but I'm just saying, like,
no, that never happens. Don't check CoinMarketCap.
By the dip of the dip.
Yeah. We got it by the dip. And I will shout out. You mentioned Sam. Shout out to Sam. Like, people always like talking about our marketing. It's like he's one of the few people I've ever met. Sometimes you get like, you don't know, like you don't want to like propose something and like be in a meeting and people are like, oh my God. But he's been one of the few people who've been like, it's not out there enough. Like, why, that's too generic. Like, he approved this tired of being exit liquidity ad campaign around the mainnet thing. And I had initially proposed something much more vanilla because I was like, founders, they want to be cautious. And he's one of the few who've been like, that's boring. We need to jack up the aggression, jack up the weirdness. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's cool. And I think if you're radically honest, people are like, what? Because no one in crypto is honesty is not a real big commodity with crypto. In fact, being dishonest and the hustle is like outside of Arweave can be that's something that people like make a lot of money off. It's fleecing people, pyramid schemes and stuff. Like you read about it so much that if you can be real honest about what you do, what your tech does, what your community is like, all the tokenization stuff, like it's really refreshing. So you just got to be real because people sense BS really quick. They do. So don't give them BS because they won't stick around. They'll be out.
Don't give them BS. You won't find BS here. You mentioned Turbo recently, and that's something I've been catching my eye on. Like, what? Talk to me more about Turbo. What is it? And why was it so important for Ario?
Ooh, I love that question. So Turbo is essentially the way by which you can upload files without having to use crypto. Like, right, you used to always, like, the only way to do it back in the day was just you had to spend Arweave to archive files. And so Turbo's a way to use credit card. You can use other crypto, and you can use fiat, and what makes it awesome is that like you can use it with our CLI, the command line interface. So you can build it into different things you're making, or you can just use it natively within ARDrive, which is why we brand it between ARDrive and RAO, because it works with all the different components of the tech.
Well, it crosses ARDrive and RAO.
Yeah. So that's why it's branded with both. We talk about it in the context of both. So yeah, I forget how long we've had it, but like it was a big game changer because like my mom, for example, doesn't have a Arweave wallet, but she can archive our family pictures and not have to mess with crypto, which is really cool. Going back to what I was saying, like our mission statement, getting permanent storage into the hands of everyone. Like I feel like Turbo is such a big part of that, because then it's like Web 2 convenience with Web 3 security, which I think is dope.
It is dope. Yeah, no, I mean, like everyone always, it's like everyone recognizes the hurdle, which is what you described, which is how are we going to get our moms onto crypto if they got to get a wallet, go to an exchange, get a token. Like everything I just said, everyone in my family would be like, nah. Like I stopped at step one. That's one of the reasons why I kept my eye on Turbo, because that's us starting to chip away at that complexity barrier.
Yeah, and I like that you agree with that, because it's like the simplest way is like having that fiat crypto bridge is how you get people wanting to use it. And then you can teach them about Wander. Then you can teach them about everything else. But like when it happened, we were all really stoked. And that's why we always talk about it. And that's why I'm really glad you asked about it. So thank you.
There you go. Why should people care about permanent storage, period? Like why should anyone care about that? This is sort of like a big
because history
question.
repeats itself because we always forget it. Sorry.
Whoa. Okay.
That's good, Johnny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think Johnny's right. I mean, they always say history is written by the victors, right? LTO was talking about how being able to document like his family's culture and everything, and pictures he'd found, putting them online, like there's so much stuff that's ephemeral, right? You always hear about servers crashing, like the big story with MySpace a few years ago, losing all these artists' music. I mean, like here's like, I have so many of these drives around with all my videos and everything. It's like the stuff that's important, I want to be able to access it and not have it be deleted. And I think the censorship issue is very interesting, because as the world changes and the narrative tries to get controlled by people who have more access to the tools of distribution, it's just more urgent. That's why every year we try to highlight the Banned Books Week. I try to do a talk about what public domain books are available on Arweave, and then show how to store them. And even though the books aren't literally censored, certain institutions may not want them available. So like that's another good example. But
dude, the banned books thing, man, I just cannot believe we're banning books. What fundamental lesson of history is more clear than any time you're banning books? You're just on the wrong side. Like I just can't even believe when I read that in the news.
It's crazy. And it's also like interesting how every year things that you don't think would be controversial become controversial.
Yes.
Just put it out there and then let everyone figure out their own narrative. And hateful speech or like stuff that's straight up wrong, we just need to explain this is why this is wrong, and like here's the peer review background on it. But you shouldn't. I don't believe in censorship. When it comes to ideas.
If there was speaking of books, if there was one textbook you would want to store, or let's just say one book that you want to store permanently, that everyone would have access to in the world, what would it be? The tough one.
And this is a book that you say hypothetically is at risk of being erased otherwise?
Yeah, but it just like one, it doesn't have to be, let's say, just one book that you're like, and you don't have to think of like what's best for society. Like what's personal to you that like, you're like, this made such an impact. And Johnny, I'm going to ask you this too. So I'm going to put Andrew in the hot seat. What book was personal to you that had such an impact on your life that you're like, I need to make sure this is on Arweave or ARDrive, so that everyone has access to this book?
So Yeah, I would say a book that was really influential to me is David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest. Have you guys
I'm reading
familiar
the
with this
book
book?
right now.
Yo,
Reading
where
it
are
right
you?
now. First of all, that book is long as hell, may I
Oh my
say.
God. It's like this
Like
thick.
I read it on a Kindle, so it tells me the percentage, and I'm like, dude, how am I on 35%? It's been like 5 months right now. But yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
So does it flip to the flip notes? Do you tap each flip note? Sorry, each footnote? Like, because there's so many.
Well, I'm not tapping everyone. Am I missing out on huge stuff?
I would say that that is a large part of why it's so interesting, because so much of the plot holes are explained by them, by the footnotes.
Okay, because I'm not gonna lie, it was a little. I'm finally starting to get it after 6 months, but there was a lot like, who is this person again, and what was happening?
Yeah.
Because he's flipping around. Yeah.
So real quick, just to plug something when you're done, I did a song about it. It's called Finite Jest. And the chorus is Teenage Dirtbag, and I did it with Wheatus, and it's from Hal's perspective as the teenage dirtbag, the kid who's listening to metal, tried to figure it all out, and why he relates to the Hamlet archetype. So when you're done, Drew, though, if you read it now, it will spoil the ending. So don't listen to it till you're done reading it.
I totally will, because yeah, I've been grinding on this book for so long. I'm totally down. I need someone to help me explain it. But go ahead, you tell me why it was important to you.
I think that what's so fascinating about that book, so it came out in 96, and Wallace predicts a lot of how things would change. Like the fact that, like, so the premise, without spoiling too much, is that there's this cartridge. If you watch it, it's so mesmerizing, you can't look away, and you stop eating, you basically become an addict, and you just starve to death. Like, you knew that, Drew, right? I didn't spoil anything.
I'm at that point, yep.
Cool. So
The entertainment, they call it, yeah.
Yeah, the entertainment, which you later figure out what's on that video and why it's so mesmerizing. But I think that, like, the fact that we are so glued to our screens and trying to make meaning of everything, it goes back to the whole thing we were talking about, like the Gen X Smells Like Teen Spirit, Nirvana perspective of, like, everything, we can't trust our institutions, everything's falling apart. And David Foster Wallace makes the point that, like, things are falling apart because culture's so fragmented and everyone is incentivized to take away our attention. And so, like, it's the best predictive example of, like, the attention economy on steroids and how you can be distracted from life, and all the problems and all the chaos comes from the fact that once this spreads like a virus, it disrupts society, it disrupts family structures. And I think David Foster Wallace is such a believer in, like, the goodness of people, stepping away from irony. Like, the real heroes in that book are the ones who are trying to make sense of it. Like, Hal's relationship with his father is very much a story of, like, how we make sense of our own past. And so I think because of that, once the book's in public domain, it's a great example of how we're going to make sense of the future by not letting corporate control of our attention feed us a narrative that is untrue. And the whole book mirrors Hamlet, right? Like, the title comes from the soliloquy where he's holding up the skull. He's like, "Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him well, a fellow of infinite jest," or whatever, because Hamlet's experience is the same as Hal's experience with his father. So that's tight. The fact that he could remix Shakespeare in a way that makes sense now, that I'm, like, still so excited talking about it. And I'm really glad you're reading it, Drew. We should talk about it when
Holy
you're done.
shit, I'm so glad we talked about that, because you just explained like 5 things. I was like, what is going on here? Okay. All right, I'm excited. I didn't even think, I thought they would, like, never tell me what was on this disc. So I'm very
Find
intrigued.
out. Yeah.
All right.
And it's a great reveal that ties into a lot of what we're talking about, but I don't want to say any more because you'll find that out. Yeah.
All right. Johnny, what kind of book, what book would you, just one book, if you just had to store it, it meant so much to you that you just want everyone to be able to read it anytime they wanted to?
Actually kind of an obscure book, but it's because I have a long history that relates to the book. It's called Long Walkers. It is, how do I put it? It's definitely fiction. It's a fiction book, but it is based off of what a lot of kind of way out there historians believe happened before recorded history, or at least the parts that we have recorded anyway. It's basically about, has ties into the Bible, has ties into all sorts of things, but it's a fictional book about what used to live here on Earth and the remnants of their species. They were giants. And just how these main characters end up finding out that it's this huge government conspiracy to cover up that these giants ever existed, and that there is a very small lineage of them left here. in kind of like very secretive parts of the world. So very, very extremely out there book, but it's always been a treasure to me because it was one of those books that was close enough to what I had read about in places like the Solomon Islands and different extremely geographically unheard of places. It was close enough to all that, but still a really good story. And the conversation about that book is actually how me and my wife ended up getting together. So that book has a bit of a special place for me. And it was also given to me it was also something my dad was extremely interested in. So if I could put one on chain legally, I would put that one.
Okay, if this book can get someone a wife, that's a good book. Like that's a powerful book. Okay, I'm
To be
buying it.
fair, though, my wife is a very unique person. I guarantee you that book and the contents thereof will get nobody else a wife.
Okay. I see Johnny looking over his shoulder too, like she might be coming in any second. Like she heard me talking about her. Andrew, yeah, I know, right? Andrew, if there was, I want two calls to action from you. One, where can people learn more about your creative endeavors? And then two, where can people learn more about PDS, R Drive, REO, and everything that entails?
Awesome. Thank you, man. So I'm pretty active on X. So like I post everything there. So that's a good place to follow us and, or me, I mean, and yeah, you can check out mclars.com, or more importantly, check out mclars.r.io, which is my ARNS perma website that links out to all my content. Every time I drop a song, I do like the ARNS perma web link. So like if Spotify ever deplatforms me, you can still find it. So yeah, mclars.r.io is a good place for that. And so, PDS, like I feel like our two main arms of outward communication are the R Drive and REOX accounts. And shout out to Jenny and Anthony, who are amazing people I've been collaborating with for years. Jenny's our CMO and Anthony's our community director, and they both do a really, really good job. And then the REO YouTube, like we put shorts on there. Every long form piece of content we've done is on there. And like, I've been working to grow that. So those are the three things: the 2X accounts for REO and R Drive, and then the REO YouTube. And Phil and Jonathan or some of us are going to be in Korea for Korea Blockchain Week and then Token 2049. So like, if y'all want to meet some OGs and some really cool dudes and some people who are very central to all the alpha and stuff that's going on, like say what's up. Because Villanarios is Phil's on X, and then Johnny is Johnny Sparkles, I think. So
Johnny Sparkles.
Yeah, that's what's up.
All right. Well, you guys heard the man. Like, you can tell he is one of the friendliest, coolest guys you'll ever meet. Reach out to him on X, the REO team. He wasn't kidding. Jenny and Anthony are monitoring that platform 24/7. So if you guys got questions, comments, just ping them. Ton of educational information out there on YouTube as well. And of course, guys, you got to check out Andrew's creative works too. It's incredible, Andrew, what you're doing for the education, and then also just like the way you're pushing music forward. I'm gonna say it's fucking awesome. Like I'm gonna
Thanks.
swear. I'm gonna swear on the AOK. It's fucking awesome, man.
Well, thanks, Drew. And it's been cool seeing all the energy you brought coming in the mix and like seeing everything you're doing, holding it down. And you're doing a good job. Like at the end of the day, if you tell someone that you work in permanent storage, people might just look at you blankly. But the fact that we make that interesting and make it dope and like show the urgency of it, I think that's cool. That's not easy. And we're all working to do that. And yeah, Johnny Ringo, you're a good guy too, man. The way you tell stories, the way you bring in the meme energy and keep it popping. Oh, we lost him. He's so dope.
No,
He's out.
you gave him so many compliments. He couldn't handle it anymore.
That's tight.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself. Andrew, dude, I appreciate you so much. I'll see you around X, dude.
Cool. I look forward to it. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Peace. Bye.
Peace.